So let's just do a little quick experiment. If you consider that most of us feel that we are on a journey from where we are now to being able to perceive the formless emptiness at all times, if awakening is defined, well, it can be defined in many ways, but we could define awakening as always being aware of being aware. I'm not aware of my awareness or aware of the awareness, just awareness, just consciousness, just presence. Nobody being present, no separate being present. And no someone listening to silence, just silence. These are all names for the same thing: consciousness, presence, silence. You could call it the witness, the infinite self, the supreme self, all kinds of names. We could call it God, the divine, all of that. So I want to show you that you're not what you think you are already. So not something that you have to head towards, but something that you already are and have always been. So to do this, we're going to do a little experiment, a little seeing. So just to pick a form in the room that you're sitting in, any object at all that you're in the room that you're in. You could use your own body, you could use whatever device you're using to watch this. And you'll notice that your eyes can see forms easily. That's taken for granted already. Your ears can hear sounds, forms. All your senses are good for perceiving forms. But just looking at the object, the form, whatever it is that you've chosen, could be your hand, it could be something in the room. So you can see form effortlessly. It doesn't take any work for you to do that. That's so natural to you that you have always been able to do it. And then looking at the invisible empty space, the emptiness around that object. So if I use my hand as the example, I can see the form of it, and I can see around it the formless empty space. And it might just look like empty space, but right now already you're perceiving both form and formlessness already. So formlessness, can't see it with your eyes, can you? You can see the form with your eyes. But that which is all around it is literally invisible, intangible, inaudible. It's making no sound. You can't hold it in your hand. You can't see it with your eyes. It's invisible. And yet you know it's here. And even if you say, well, if you took all the forms out of I can see the formlessness because of the forms in contrast. But if we took all the forms out of the room and even took down the walls of the room and got rid of the room, still you would know there is no thingness here. There is that in which things appear, still present, no things in it, but still that emptiness, that no thingness, that silence, that stillness, presence. So it may be so immediately obvious that we're overlooking it all the time. This no thingness in which all these things are arising, and we just label it as empty space, unimportant, just necessary. And yet, what if it was the most important part of our experience, and yet we're totally ignoring it? If you look at the emptiness, the empty space of consciousness around my hand, it's utterly still. It's not moving at all. It's silent. It doesn't need or want anything. It's always here. It's outside of time and space. It's not affected by anything. You can't destroy it. It's not suffering. It fits all of those categories that we give the divine self, the infinite self. And yet, how much attention are we actually paying to it? If we could imagine half an hour from the end of this satsang, probably even while you're listening to the questions later, questions and answers, where will your attention be then? Will it be back on the forms, the words, or on that in which they're happening? And you don't even have to choose. So while your eyes are looking at the form, your attention, which is separate to your senses, your attention can be on the formless emptiness around the form. So my eyes are looking at my hand, but my attention is on that in which my hand is appearing. You can try it right now. Look at your form, your object, whatever it is, and your physical senses look at the form. But with some other faculty, you're noticing the emptiness. So your senses perceive forms all the time, but you do have a choice where attention goes. So if you just stop and think about this for a moment, if all of our spiritual seeking is to try to get to a place where we can perceive formlessness all the time, does that make any sense to you now? It's here all the time. Your body's walking around in it constantly. Yeah, because it's always been there. It's the thing that we're least excited about. And we're excited about some idea of what we think formlessness is in the future, that it will come with bliss and peace and lack of suffering and all of that. What if then meditation is simply the habit, we're forming a new habit, that when we look at forms, perceive forms, instead of our attention resting on the form too, as well as our senses, because they're not the same thing, our attention learns to rest on the formlessness. If you want to go a little further with me, you're more than welcome. Can you really be certain that the formlessness stops where the form starts? It really looks like it, doesn't it? It looks like right up until here, there's no thingness, there's emptiness, and then here a form starts. If you really look at it, you can't actually be sure that that's true. All you can say with 100% certainty is that here this is invisible and here this is visible. Here this is intangible, this is tangible. That's all we can be certain of. It's such a popular myth that emptiness stops where the form starts. What if that's not true? Can you stop emptiness? How would you stop it? What could I do to this emptiness of here between my hands to divide it? Is it even between my hands then? Or is it invisible here and visible here, intangible here and tangible here? This is a really different way for human beings to think. But your awakening is going to cost you all of your most precious assumptions, as it did me. And actually, they really weren't that precious. They were causing me a lot of pain. So when I really let go of them and was willing to think differently like this, can you justify carrying on seeking, moving towards some future moment where you're finally able to perceive formlessness now? Can you justify that? Can you really say that there's any difference between you and the Buddha now? If there is any difference, it would only be that he had trained his attention to stay on the emptiness, the formlessness, the nothingness, the silent space. What if this silent space is not inert or dead at all? What if it's actually intelligence? What if this silent space is so intelligent that it's using this body to say these words right now and using those ears to hear these words? What if this is the main event And this is secondary, optional, temporary. Not less than, just temporary, secondary. How does that flip your whole world on its head? You can already now, right now, perceive form and formlessness. What does that say about you? Who are you now? Can you really still go back to, with as much allegiance as you had, this idea that you one day, someday, will be able to perceive formlessness constantly? Or do we really have to kind of admit that maybe we've always been perceiving it? It's so natural to us that we didn't know until something contrasts against it and someone points it out. Hey, you're already able to perceive emptiness, nothingness. When I realized this, it really stopped the seeking completely in its tracks, because the seeking was to get to some moment where I could finally recognize my emptiness, my spacious nothingness. But we just did it, and we're doing it all the time. We're seeing it all the time, so much so that we kind of block it out. When has your body been alive and there wasn't this emptiness all around it at all times? And is this really a body then? If this nothingness doesn't have any edges, does it stop where the body starts? Is the nothingness absent from where this particular body is sitting, or your particular body? Is this really a body then? Are any forms really forms? So if all this is kind of sounding a bit strange, it's totally okay. Just a willingness to entertain that you might be something very different than what you thought. It's a very popular idea, and all of our seeking and suffering is based on the idea that I can only perceive forms right now, and I have to work up to or practice to be able to perceive formlessness. And it isn't true, is it? And how does that change things for you then? Right now, you're seeing the Buddha nature, your Buddha nature, the formless emptiness all around your body, inside your body, appearing as your body, and the form isn't costing you any energy at all to perceive emptiness. It's natural to you, so natural that you don't even notice you're doing it. And so, will you now go back to, at some point, this idea that you've got to get to the place where you can perceive like the Buddha did? Or will it be more important to you now to remember what you're already seeing? Formless emptiness, it doesn't feel special, does it? This is like what all the big fuss has been about, where all the sages are writing and singing about. Is this it? Well, have we ever really experienced it without this kind of contempt that we have for it? And I will use the word contempt because for me, when I first touched upon the realization that I'm always seeing emptiness, consciousness, it was like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. It's boring, it's dull, just necessary stuff for the forms to appear in. It's swept aside very quickly. And there was this idea that it couldn't be so obvious. The thing that I'd spent 23 years searching for at that point couldn't be always here at all times, even though I'd heard Many teachers say it's all around you right now. It's present everywhere at all times, can be absent from nowhere. Still, there was this, I don't even know what the word is. There was this, even though it wasn't contempt anymore then, but there was a preference to go back to my nice illusion of seeking something, because this didn't feel blissful or peaceful. Certainly there was no love or joy. It was just empty space of consciousness. Well, at first I just thought it was empty space, insentient. So I had to turn around this habit of moving forward, going back to the illusion of moving forward, and bring that attention to this, to recognize maybe if I wasn't having the same experience as the sages, maybe because I wasn't as open to see what this actually is, that it was some kind of filter on how I was perceiving it that was making me dismiss it. So let's do this right now if you want to. Let's notice the empty consciousness again, but this time with a curiosity, as if you'd never seen it before, because in all honesty, we probably really haven't seen it without our beliefs about it. How many times have we actually walked through a room and not taken that emptiness for granted? You don't even notice it's there. It's like the goldfish swimming around in the bowl looking for water, you know? And we're all doing that until we're not. So what is this? And how do you know it's there? Can't see it with your eyes. Can't use your senses to perceive it. It's not tangible. Makes no sound. It has no smell. It's never changing. It's not suffering. It's not thinking. Is it really just completely inert and insentient if it is responsible for all of these forms? In the manifestation, the forms, we can see the divine intelligence at work. It must be this same no thingness that's here right now. So just looking at it with curiosity. Have you ever met it, really? What if this is yourself? And this is a vehicle you're using, like a car you get into to drive. Can you suffer as this? Can you die as this? Do you need to reach awakening as this? Is there anything lacking in your experience when you notice this? So if you really want to be free, then this is the thing to remember, that you're already that which you are seeking. You're already able to perceive both forms and formlessness. Most human beings are only aware that they're perceiving forms and totally ignoring the formlessness. Even this far down the path, we might be meditating to try to find the emptiness rather than meditating to see it's already here, to remember it's already here. We can already perceive it effortlessly. We didn't have to do any warm up to perceive emptiness. Right now, you're still perceiving it. It's still here. Hasn't changed. So I hope this has shocked you. I hope this has turned things upside down. And I hope that this has changed how you move through the next hours, days, and weeks of your life, and maybe the rest of your life if it's really hit you. No amount of spiritual practice to try to get somewhere is going to get you any more clear on what you really are than what you're experiencing right now. This invisible mystery that's appearing as all these visible forms. You can't really know anything about it. You can know the way it's appearing as the bodies and the plants and the planets and the buildings and all of that stuff. But you can't really know anything about it. Can't really know anything about you. If you were only the form, you wouldn't be able to perceive formlessness right now. If you were only the body, you wouldn't be able to see the emptiness right now. The senses perceive forms, vibrations. But you can already also perceive formlessness. Who are you then?